Hi, in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to create a pinch pot, and we're going to be creating 2 pinch pots in this assignment, and then we're going to decorate them with a process called Sgraffito. Here is an example of a Sgraffito pinch pot. Here's another example that has the clear overcoat on top of it. And Sgraffito is a decorative process of carving away some of the glaze and clay to create a design. So to start with, you're going to need a canvas mat, a cup of water, a rubber rib, a sponge, a ball of clay, and not your signature stamp. Ignore that. We'll use that on day 2. So to start with, you need to wedge your clay. So wedging your clay is a process of removing air trapped inside the clay. And it also combines your clay so that it's one continuous piece of clay without like hard areas and wet areas. It combines it as if you were making dough. You would combine your dough so that it's all the same and it sticks together nicely. If I don't wedge the clay, then what happens is as the clay is heating in the kiln, which reaches almost 2,000 degrees, if there's air inside the clay, it's going to expand with heat, and then it's going to try to make its way out of the clay, and in doing so, it's going to make its own hole and burst the clay. Right now I'm just doing a process of wedging where I'm pressing down, and I lift it on its end, pressing down using these parts of my hands. And I don't want to fold the clay over because it will trap a pocket of air. I want it to go as straight down as I can make it. When we use larger pieces of clay, I'll teach you another method of wedging. But right now, this is an adequate way to remove the air. And do this about 20 times with a piece of clay this size. And the amount of clay that I have is like the size of a very small orange or a very large clementine. Okay, so once you have wedged it, pass it back and forth between your hands to form a ball. And the next thing I would do is use a little water, and I would smooth out any cracks that you have there, so it makes your pinch pot making an easier process. You won't have to do as much refining if you start with a nice smooth piece of clay. So once you've done that, reshape it again by rolling it around in your hands to get it into a nice ball. Next step is to hold it in one of the palms of my hands. Use my opposite thumb. I'm going to go right in. I'm going to press in far. I don't want to go all the way through. And you see how far, you can kind of tell how far in I went. It's not very bright in there. The next thing to do, as the words pinch pot imply, is we're going to pinch it. So with my fingers on the outside and my thumb on the inside, I'm just going to squeeze them together like this, like pinching, right? So I'm going to just pinch. Then I'm going to turn it in my hand, lift my fingers out, pinch, turn, pinch, turn. As I'm doing that, I'm trying to create a wall here that's about the same thickness all the way. Like, I don't want to have a really thick wall and a thin wall. I want it to be as even as I can so that it looks nice. And I don't want to go too thin, because if I do, the likelihood of it cracking are going to increase, okay? So right now it's wider than a pencil. My goal is to make it around pencil thickness. I would not go thinner than a pencil. Right now it's too thick. It's like a pinky thickness. It's a little too thick. And I'm just going to pinch a bit more. Pinch, turn. I'm not pinching very hard. If I pinch very hard, it's going to get ruined. I have to go slowly with control. I can slide my thumb around as I pinch, kind of pinching the outside, smoothing the inside as I go. Next, I notice that it's kind of curved down at the bottom, but I want the bottom to be like a floor, like you see in this one, it's flat in there, right? I want to try to make the bottom of it almost the same size as the opening. So in order to do that, I'm going to put my thumb down in this corner and squeeze. and then squeeze, and I keep turning it and squeezing, sliding my thumb across the bottom of that floor. So far you can see the difference. Maybe the light's not great. Just squeeze the bottom until I get all the way around again. Okay. The next thing to do is, if I would like my pinch pot to be a little taller, I'm going to put my thumb in. I'm going to keep my hands on the outside just still, put my thumb in, and just pull it up. So now you see that part get a little taller. I'm going to just pull it up. So I'm just kind of stretching the clay upward. Keep in mind, as you stretch clay, it is going to get thinner. So you need to pay attention and don't use like too much force to do this, because pretty soon your pinch pot is going to be too thin. Okay, now I'm noticing some little cracking that's happening here. So to fix that, use a little water and just go along it with your thumb along the top of the clay, inside of the clay. I turn it as I go, and I'm trying to think about making it the same thickness all the way around by pinching and smoothing. If your clay becomes too wide, okay, oh no, my clay became too wide, right? So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm just going to take, like, cup it in my hands, squish it in together, turn it, squish it in together, turn it, squish it in together. It's going to look a little funky at this point, but it's getting more and more narrow, which is getting back to its original size. And now I'll just have to go through and use the same process, hand on the outside to support, thumb on the inside, smooth, kind of compress those wrinkles, blend them together. If you blend them carefully without trapping air, it's fine. You can blend them. And at the same time, I'm trying to make the height of the pinch pot very similar. Okay, so this is what I have so far. I wouldn't want to go too much further on day one because my clay is very wet and soft. It needs to firm up a bit. So I just want to double check and make sure I have pretty much the thickness of the walls that I'd like. I could set it upside down like this, kind of check out the bottom. I could use my rib tool, which is this flexible rubber, and I could smooth the bottom slightly just to kind of level it out. Always dip it in water, otherwise you'll have too much friction and it won't slide across well. Okay, so this is not finished by any means, so don't worry if it looks kind of rough on day one. And what I need you to do today, your clay is very wet. Your signature stamp won't work very well in it today because it's just too wet. Just carefully use a needle tool or a pencil and write your initials in the bottom, just very lightly. And we're going to put these together in a container overnight to let them become what's called leather hard. So in the next video, I'll show you how to refine this once it's become leather hard.